Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark.
The idea behind this proposed super team goes far beyond simply pairing two popular players together. It is about building a roster where every piece complements the strengths of the others. Caitlin Clark's elite shooting range and playmaking ability would force defenses to stretch farther than ever before, creating open space across the floor. Sophie Cunningham would bring toughness, defensive intensity, and veteran leadership, providing the type of balance that championship contenders often need. Together, they would form a backcourt combination capable of impacting both ends of the game, creating constant pressure on opponents and establishing a culture built on competitiveness, accountability, and confidence. What makes the concept even more intriguing is how the supporting roster could be constructed around them. Modern basketball is won through spacing, versatility, and players who understand their roles. Surround Clark with reliable shooters, athletic wings, and defenders willing to do the dirty work, and suddenly every possession becomes difficult to defend. Opponents would be forced to choose between stopping Clark's deep shooting, containing her playmaking, or preventing easy opportunities for teammates. No defense can consistently take away all three. That is what separates good teams from dominant ones. The best organizations create systems where stars elevate everyone around them, and every player benefits from the attention those stars command. The excitement surrounding a roster like this is not only about basketball strategy. It is about what it could mean for the future of the league. Star-driven teams generate attention, television ratings, merchandise sales, and national conversation. Fans tune in to watch greatness, rivalries, and championship-level competition. A team built around Clark and Cunningham would instantly become one of the most discussed stories in professional sports. Every game would carry extra significance. Every matchup would feel like an event. Whether people loved the team or rooted against it, they would watch. And in today's sports landscape, attention is one of the most valuable assets any league can possess. Why analysts and media personalities continue discussing bold roster-building ideas. The conversation is not just about creating a contender, it is about creating a product that captures the imagination of fans. If a front office were willing to think aggressively, prioritize chemistry, and build a roster specifically designed to maximize Clark's unique skill set, the result could be something special. Not merely a playoff team, but a franchise capable of shaping an entire era of women's basketball. The league is evolving rapidly. Expectations are rising, and the teams willing to embrace innovation may ultimately be the ones defining the next decade. The vision for this hypothetical super team extends far beyond simply winning basketball games. If a roster built around Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham ever became reality, the impact would be felt across the entire league. Every arena would be packed whenever they came to town. Television ratings would surge, highlight reels would dominate social media, and national sports networks would spend hours debating every game, every roster move, and every championship prediction. More importantly, rival franchises would be forced to respond by becoming more aggressive themselves, creating stronger rosters, and elevating the overall level of competition throughout the WNBA. That is how leagues grow. That is how sports create dynasties, rivalries, and unforgettable eras that capture the attention of casual fans and dedicated followers alike. Building a roster capable of reaching that level requires more than star power. It requires balance. Alongside Clark's playmaking brilliance and Cunningham's defensive intensity, the front office would need to surround them with players who fit specific roles. A dominant center capable of protecting the rim, controlling the glass, and setting physical screens would provide the interior presence necessary for playoff basketball. A versatile forward with the ability to defend multiple positions while stretching the floor with outside shooting would add another dimension to both ends of the court. Add a secondary creator who can handle the ball, attack defenses, and relieve pressure from Clark, and suddenly the offense becomes nearly impossible to contain. Every player would have a purpose. Every role would be clearly defined, and every possession would place immense pressure on opposing defenses. Of course, a roster this talented would immediately become one of the most polarizing teams in sports. Questions would emerge the moment it was assembled. How did one franchise acquire so much talent? Which players accepted reduced salaries to make it work? Did competitive balance suffer in the process? The debates would dominate television, radio, podcasts, and social media. Some fans would celebrate the creation of a powerhouse, while others would argue that super teams undermine the spirit of competition. Comparisons to historic NBA dynasties would be unavoidable. Every victory would be scrutinized, every loss magnified, and every decision analyzed under a microscope. The financial side of the equation would be equally fascinating. Unlike the NBA, the WNBA operates with tighter salary cap restrictions, making roster construction significantly more complicated. For a super team to become reality, sacrifices would be unavoidable. Star players would likely need to accept contracts below their market value in exchange for an opportunity to compete for championships. That creates unique challenges involving expectations, personalities, and long-term commitment. History has shown that assembling elite talent is often the easy part. Keeping everyone aligned when adversity arrives is far more difficult. That is why some super teams become dynasties while others collapse under the weight of pressure, expectations, and competing ambitions. Ultimately, the success of any hypothetical super team would depend on one simple principle: collective sacrifice. Talent wins headlines, but chemistry wins championships. If every player fully embraced their role, prioritized winning over statistics, and committed to a shared vision, the result could be one of the most dominant teams the league has ever seen. But if individual goals begin to outweigh team success, even the most talented roster can fall apart. That balance between star power and selflessness is what would determine whether this dream scenario becomes a legendary level. The influence of a dominant super team would extend far beyond professional basketball. Young athletes often model their games after the stars they admire, and a team built around Caitlin Clark's creativity, Sophie Cunningham's toughness, and a collection of elite talent would inspire an entirely new generation of players. Coaches at every level would study the offensive concepts, defensive schemes, and roster-building philosophies that made such a team successful. Basketball clinics, training camps, and development programs would begin emphasizing versatility, floor spacing, unselfish play, and positionless basketball in ways never seen before. Yet for all the excitement surrounding the possibility of a super team, one reality remains impossible to ignore. Championships are never won on paper. Every season begins with enormous expectations for a handful of teams, but history repeatedly reminds us that talent alone guarantees nothing. Injuries happen. Chemistry can fluctuate. Pressure can overwhelm even the most accomplished athletes. Every opponent would view games against this roster as their personal championship. Every arena would be sold out. Every nationally televised matchup would feel like a playoff game. The spotlight would be relentless, and the margin for error would be almost non-existent. That is what makes the concept so fascinating. On one hand, a roster built around Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham could become one of the most exciting teams the WNBA has ever seen. The combination of elite shooting, relentless competitiveness, defensive intensity, and star power would create a product that fans could not ignore. On the other hand, the very expectations that make the team attractive could also become its greatest challenge. Every losing streak would trigger headlines. Every disagreement would become a national story. Every playoff setback would fuel criticism from fans and media members eager to declare the experiment a failure. Ultimately, the conversation surrounding a potential super team reflects something much larger than basketball. It reflects the rapid evolution of the WNBA itself. The league is attracting more viewers, generating greater revenue, securing larger television audiences, and producing stars capable of transcending sports. Caitlin Clark has become one of the central figures in that transformation, drawing unprecedented attention to women's basketball and creating opportunities that did not exist just a few years ago. Whether a super team ever materializes or not, the fact that these conversations are happening demonstrates just how far the league has come. The future of the WNBA will be shaped by ambitious front offices, empowered players, growing media attention, and passionate fans who demand a higher level of competition. If a franchise ever manages to assemble a roster with this level of talent, the consequences would be felt throughout the sport for years to come. Rivalries would intensify, television ratings would rise, sponsorship opportunities would expand, and every organization would be forced to rethink its strategy. Some teams would chase star power. Others would focus on development and culture. But no one would be able to stand still, and that may be the most important outcome of all. Great teams do not merely win championships. They force everyone around them to improve. They raise standards, challenge assumptions, and redefine what success looks like. Whether this hypothetical roster becomes reality or remains an intriguing thought experiment, it represents the direction modern basketball is heading: star-driven, highly competitive, relentlessly ambitious, and constantly evolving. The next chapter of the WNBA promises to be unlike anything the sport has experienced before, and if a team like this ever takes the court, the entire basketball world will be watching. The impact would not stop at the professional level. College basketball would likely experience similar trends, with elite recruits becoming more strategic about where they play and which teammates they can join. Programs would compete not only for talent, but for the opportunity to build championship cores capable of dominating the national spotlight. The concept of players teaming up to maximize success would become increasingly normalized, reflecting the same evolution taking place at the professional level. That raises the question everyone is asking. Is a Caitlin Clark-led super team the inevitable future of the WNBA, or is it a risky experiment that could create a league divided between a handful of powerhouse franchises and everyone else? The blueprint clearly exists. The financial incentives are growing. Player influence continues to expand. And front offices across the league are paying close attention to what comes next. The decision ultimately belongs to the people with the power to make it happen. General managers must decide whether they are willing to take the risk. Ownership groups must determine whether the financial investment is worth the potential rewards. Players themselves must decide what matters most: maximizing earnings, building a legacy with one franchise, or joining forces in pursuit of championships. Every choice will help shape the future direction of the league. Caitlin Clark's role in that future cannot be overstated. As one of the most recognizable athletes in basketball, her decisions will influence how other stars approach their own careers. If she embraces the idea of assembling elite talent around her, it could accelerate a new era of player-driven team building. If she chooses to build through patience, development, and long-term continuity, it could reinforce a more traditional model. Either path would send a powerful message throughout the sport. What makes this moment so fascinating is that the conversation has already begun. Executives are evaluating possibilities. Agents are exploring opportunities. Players are discussing their futures. Every offseason move now carries greater significance because the league is entering a period of rapid transformation. Whether a super team centered around Clark ever materializes is almost secondary to the larger reality. The WNBA is evolving faster than ever before. The 2026 season could become a defining turning point. Front offices are making decisions today that may determine the balance of power for years to come. Some organizations will aggressively pursue stars. Others will focus on development and culture. Some will chase immediate championships, while others will build patiently.